Squeeze your hand into a fist. Now do it again, as hard as you possibly can. Feel that tension running from your fingertips all the way up into your forearm. That simple motion you just made is actually one of the most talked about health markers in medicine over the last 2 decades, and you've probably never heard of it. You know your cholesterol number, maybe you know your blood pressure, you might even know your resting heart rate. But do you know your grip strength? Almost certainly not. Yet according to some of the largest scientific studies ever conducted, this one simple measurement can predict whether you'll be alive in 10 years better than your blood pressure can. In this video, I'll explain what grip strength actually is, why it matters so much, why scientists call it a biological age marker, what's actually happening inside your body when it declines, and how you can test and improve your own grip strength starting this week. Stick around until the end, because I'll share a simple but effective training routine you can start today with almost no equipment. What is grip strength? Grip strength is, simply put, a measure of how hard you can squeeze with your hand. It's usually measured with a device called a dynamometer, a small handheld tool that gives you a number in kilograms or pounds of force based on how hard you squeeze it. Today, dynamometers are a standard tool in gyms, physical therapy clinics, hospitals, and research labs around the world. Major health organizations and longevity researchers now treat it as a serious clinical marker, not just a gym curiosity. Why the sudden interest? Because scientists noticed something surprising. Hand strength isn't really just about your hand. Grip strength turns out to be an indirect reflection of your overall muscle mass, your nervous system function, your cardiovascular fitness, and even the health of your internal organs. Think about what's actually involved in the act of gripping something. It engages dozens of muscles in your hand and forearm, flexor tendons, intrinsic hand muscles, and the larger muscles running up toward your elbow. It requires nerve signals traveling all the way from your brain, down your spinal cord, through peripheral nerves, and finally into the muscle fibers themselves. And it depends on the overall quality of your body's motor control system, the coordination between what your brain intends and what your muscles actually execute. So that single number the dynamometer spits out ends up acting like a summary score, a compressed readout of how well several interconnected systems are working together at once. Scientists have a term for this. They call grip strength a proxy marker for biological resilience. In other words, it's a way of indirectly measuring something we can't directly measure in a doctor's office. Your body's overall durability, its capacity to withstand stress, illness, and the wear of aging. The shocking research findings. Now let's get to the really striking part. The data that made researchers sit up and pay attention. In 2015, the medical journal The Lancet published a massive study covering roughly 140,000 people across 17 different countries, spanning high-income, middle-income, and low-income nations. It's known in research circles as the PURE study. Researchers measured participants' grip strength at the start of the study using standardized dynamometers, then followed those same people for an average of 4 years, tracking who developed a disease and who died. The results were genuinely eye-opening. Every 5-kilogram drop in grip strength was associated with a meaningful increase in all-cause mortality risk, meaning death from any cause whatsoever, not just one specific disease. But here's the part that really got researchers' attention. That relationship between grip strength and mortality was actually stronger than the well-established link between systolic blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. Take a second to really sit with that. Doctors have measured blood pressure for the better part of a century. It's the reason millions of people take daily medication, follow low-sodium diets, and get routine checkups. Blood pressure measurement is arguably the single most entrenched pillar of modern preventive medicine. But according to this research, how hard your hand can squeeze tells you at least as much about your future health, and in some specific ways, more. And this finding isn't a fluke from one unusually large study. Dozens of independent studies, across different countries, age groups, and health conditions, keep turning up a strikingly similar pattern. People with lower grip strength consistently show higher rates of cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks and stroke. Cancer patients with higher grip strength at the time of diagnosis tend to have better survival outcomes after treatment, even when the cancer type and stage are similar. In hospitalized older adults, Lower grip strength on admission is linked to a higher risk of complications, longer hospital stays, and readmission after discharge. Some longitudinal studies even connect declining grip strength over time to a greater risk of cognitive decline and dementia later in life. There's also research linking grip strength to recovery from surgery. Patients with stronger grip going into major operations, things like joint replacements or abdominal surgery, tend to recover mobility faster and experience fewer post-operative complications than patients with weaker grip, even after accounting for age. So why on earth would the strength of your hand have anything to do with a heart attack, a cancer diagnosis, or how well your brain ages? That's exactly what researchers set out to explain. The science behind it. There are a few competing theories here, and the honest answer is that they're probably all working together simultaneously. Theory 1. A marker of sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the medical term for the loss of muscle mass and function that comes with aging. Starting in your 30s. Yes, that early. Especially if you live a relatively sedentary lifestyle, you begin losing a measurable percentage of your total muscle mass with each passing decade. That loss doesn't stay constant either. It tends to accelerate significantly as you move into your 60s and 70s, sometimes described as a steepening curve rather than a straight line. Grip strength can act as an early warning sign of this broader muscle loss because the forearm muscles responsible for gripping tend to weaken in parallel with muscle groups throughout the rest of the body, your legs, your back, your core. In that sense, a weakening grip isn't really about your hand at all. It's the visible, easily measured tip of a much larger process happening quietly throughout your entire musculoskeletal system. And muscle mass matters for far more than just looking strong or being able to lift heavy things. Muscle tissue functions almost like an active endocrine organ. It helps regulate your metabolism, assists in balancing your blood sugar by soaking up glucose after meals, and even releases signaling molecules that communicate with your immune system. As muscle mass declines, these regulatory functions tend to weaken right along with it, which may partly explain the link between low grip strength and conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Theory 2. Nervous system health. Grip strength isn't purely a muscle story. It also reflects the quality of the nerve signals traveling from your brain, down your spine, and out to your hands. As the overall health of your nervous system declines with age or disease, the communication pathway between nerves and muscles, what scientists call the neuromuscular junction, starts to degrade. Signals become slower, less precise, and less powerful. This is exactly why some researchers describe grip strength as a marker of neuromuscular health rather than pure muscular strength. It's partly why grip strength has shown associations with cognitive decline. A nervous system that's struggling to send clean signals to your hand may also be struggling elsewhere, including in regions of the brain responsible for memory and processing speed. Theory 3. A reflection of overall physical activity and lifestyle. There's also a simpler, less dramatic explanation worth taking seriously. People with strong grips are probably, on average, more physically active and generally fitter people to begin with. In other words, grip strength might not be a direct cause of anything at all. It could simply be a downstream result and visible indicator of a healthier lifestyle overall, including better nutrition, more movement, and fewer chronic conditions. The honest scientific consensus is that the real explanation is likely a combination of all three theories working together. Grip strength seems to function as a kind of integrated summary score, simultaneously reflecting muscle health, nervous system function, and general lifestyle habits, all compressed into one simple, cheap 30-second test. Does this apply to everyone? Now, you might be asking a completely fair question. I'm in my 20s or 30s and feel perfectly healthy. Why should any of this matter to me right now? This is exactly where the most important and most actionable point comes in. The higher your muscle mass and strength start out when you're young, the later and more gently the age-related decline ends up affecting you. Researchers call this concept functional reserve. Think of it as a buffer or a cushion built up in your younger years that you slowly draw down as you age. In practical terms, that means investing in your muscle strength in your 20s and 30s directly determines your capacity for independent movement decades later. Your ability to climb a flight of stairs without stopping, lift a suitcase into an overhead bin, carry your own groceries, or simply get up off the floor without needing to use your hands when you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s. Geriatric specialists frequently point to falls and the fractures that often result from them as one of the single biggest causes of lost independence in old age. A hip fracture in an 80-year-old can trigger a cascade of complications that dramatically shortens life expectancy. A strong grip plays a direct, practical role in preventing that outcome. It helps you maintain your balance during a stumble, grab onto a railing or piece of furniture while falling, and reduce the physical impact and resulting damage when a fall does happen, despite your best efforts. So this isn't just a topic reserved for old people or something to worry about later. The habits you build and the strength you accumulate today are quietly shaping your mobility, independence, and quality of life 30 or 40 years from now, long before you'll ever notice the difference in daily life. How do you test your own grip strength? So how do you actually find out where you currently stand? The most accurate method is using a dynamometer. These devices aren't prohibitively expensive anymore. You can find reasonably priced, reliable models online for home use. Physical therapy clinics, some fitness centers, and increasingly some primary care offices can also perform this measurement for you as part of a broader health assessment. As a rough general reference point, average grip strength in adult men tends to fall somewhere around 40 to 50 kilograms, or roughly 88 to 110 pounds of force. In women, the average tends to sit around 25 to 35 kilograms, or roughly 55 to 77 pounds. But it's worth being cautious here. These numbers vary significantly based on age, height, body size, hand size, and even the specific measurement protocol used, so it wouldn't be scientifically accurate to declare a single universal healthy cutoff that applies to everyone. If you don't have access to a dynamometer, there's a simpler low-tech indicator worth trying. Dead hang time on a pull-up bar. Simply hang from the bar with your arms fully extended and time how long you can hold on before your grip gives out. This isn't a scientifically precise or standardized measurement by any means, but it can give you a reasonably useful, practical sense of your grip endurance, and it's something you can repeat easily over time. What matters far more than any single measurement, though, is tracking the change over time. Measuring again after 6 months, and then again after a year, and watching your own personal trend line is genuinely more meaningful and more actionable than comparing your one-time number to some generic population average. How do you improve your grip strength? Now let's get to the part you've probably been waiting for this whole video. How do you actually improve it? Here's the encouraging news. Grip strength is one of the easiest physical traits in your entire body to develop and improve, because your hands and forearms are muscles you already use constantly throughout the day. Opening jars, carrying bags, typing. They tend to respond to targeted training remarkably quickly compared to other muscle groups. 1. Compound weight training. Somewhat counterintuitively, the most effective grip training often isn't exercises aimed directly at the hand at all. It's big compound movements that happen to demand a strong grip as a side effect. Pull-ups, deadlifts, rows, and farmer's walks all naturally challenge and build your grip strength as a byproduct of the larger movement. When performing these exercises, gripping the bar with bare hands instead of relying on wrist straps or lifting wraps forces your grip to work harder, which speeds up development considerably over time. 2. The farmer's walk. This is probably the single simplest and most effective grip exercise that exists, and it requires almost no technical skill to perform correctly. You simply pick up something heavy in each hand, dumbbells, kettlebells, a loaded trap bar, or honestly even a couple of heavy grocery bags or water jugs at home, and walk a certain distance while maintaining good posture. It simultaneously develops grip strength, shoulder and scapular stability, core strength, and even cardiovascular conditioning if performed for longer distances. 3A Grip Dynamometer, or Spring-Loaded Hand Exerciser. A simple, inexpensive, and highly portable tool that fits in a bag or desk drawer. Even just a few minutes of dedicated squeezing exercises a day, broken into a few short sets, produces noticeable and measurable improvement within just a few weeks for most people who are starting from a lower baseline. 4 Dead Hangs. Simply hanging from a pull-up bar and holding on for as long as you comfortably can, then resting and repeating for a few sets. This develops both raw grip strength and endurance, improves shoulder joint health and stability, and can even create a mild, gentle decompression effect on your spine that many people find relieves lower back tension. Adding just a couple of these movements into your weekly routine, say 2 or 3 times a week, is genuinely enough to produce a measurable, noticeable difference within a few months, without needing a complicated or time-consuming program. An important caveat. Before we wrap up, I want to add one important word of caution here. Grip strength isn't a magic standalone marker that you should obsess over in isolation. In other words, it would be a mistake to think that simply strengthening your hands, on their own, is somehow going to make you live a longer and healthier life all by itself. Grip strength is fundamentally a reflection and downstream consequence of your overall muscle health, nervous system function, and general physical activity level. What actually matters most, at the end of the day, is living a genuinely active lifestyle overall, doing regular resistance and strength training across your whole body, eating enough protein to support muscle maintenance, and preserving your muscle mass as you age. Grip strength is simply a convenient, measurable result of doing those things well, a symptom of good underlying health, not the goal itself. Think of it like a car's fuel gauge. The gauge itself isn't the car, and staring at the gauge won't get you anywhere on its own, but it gives you genuinely valuable, easy-to-read information about the state of the tank underneath. Grip strength works in a remarkably similar way, offering a quick, cheap window into your body's broader underlying condition without requiring an expensive lab test. Closing. To sum everything up, grip strength looks, on the surface, like a simple, almost trivial measurement, just how hard you can squeeze something. But it actually offers surprisingly deep insight into your muscle health, your nervous system function, and your overall physical resilience as you age. Large-scale research involving hundreds of thousands of people shows it's as important as blood pressure, and in some specific ways, potentially even more so, when it comes to predicting mortality risk, heart disease, and recovery from illness or surgery. And the best part of this entire story is this. You don't need a complicated, expensive, or time-consuming program to improve it. Doing farmer's walks a couple of times a week, hanging from a pull-up bar for a minute here and there, or simply using a cheap grip tool while watching TV can make a real, measurable difference over the long run. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. See you in the next video. Until then, stay strong and stay healthy.